Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I apologize for getting the meeting started late this afternoon. Had an issue that we needed to solve before the meeting, and I think we've solved that issue. So I'm David Vogel, County Judge. Happy to see all of you here today. I'd like to ask everybody who's able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Anyone here with a cell phone today, please turn it to off or vibrate. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Harrison. Here. Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logsdon.
Here.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Are there any additions to the agenda? I would like to announce that at the end of this meeting, we expect that it won't be part of the meeting, but it'll happen immediately after the meeting. The Oldham County Public Facilities Corporation will have a meeting. The Facilities Corporation is all the members of the fiscal court, judge, chairman. All right. Hearing no other changes, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now I'll ask Sheila Fair, our fiscal court clerk, to please read the minutes from our previous meeting, which was January 7th.
January 7th, 2020. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Albert Harrison, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logsdon. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the agenda, adding executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the meeting minutes from December 17th. Motion carried 8-0-1. Magistrate Harrison abstained. Clerk's Office 2020 budget. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the Clerk's 2020 budget as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Clerk's Office 2020 annual order setting maximum salaries for deputies and assistants. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the Clerk's 2020 annual order setting maximum amounts for deputies and assistants. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. The following residents spoke concerning the Second Amendment sanctuary movement and a proposed resolution to designate Oldham County a sanctuary county for firearms unconstitutionally prohibited by the state of Kentucky. Rick Gray, Barry Laws, Andrew Gaylor, Dewey Watring, John Deathridge, David Yount, Henry Hutton, Howard Griffin, Pam Isaac, Arthur Blake, Alex White, Catherine Pendleton, Nick Lucas, Joe Lund, Kenny Young, J.D. Myers, Jason Hicks, and Roberta Douglas. Mary Ann Smith LaGrange spoke to the court concerning the courthouse remodel. Fiscal court members responded to concerns brought forth during public comment. Motion made by Judge Vogel, seconded by Magistrate Dye to take a 5-minute recess. Hearing no opposition, fiscal court went into recess. Motion made by Magistrate Hound, seconded by Magistrate Dye to return to the meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Bid awards for various vehicles. Motion made by Magistrate Harrison and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to award the bids for the following vehicles to Hunt Ford: 2020 Ford Expedition for $38,841, 2020 Ford Transit $34,767, and 2020 Ford F-250 $27,903. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Hawkins asked the minutes to reflect that the Ford F-250 is necessary for animal control to tow, transport large animals throughout the year. County Administration, payables. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to approve the payables. Motion carried unanimously. Surplus vehicles. Motion made by Magistrate Logsdon, seconded by Magistrate Dye to declare surplus the list of county vehicles to OCPD Crown Vics with the intent to sell at public auction. Motion carried unanimously. Community business. First reading to repeal and replace ordinance for road encroachment permitting for vehicle ingress egress. County Engineer Jim Silliman presented for a first reading proposed ordinance KOC 19-340-16, repealing and replacing ordinance 00-340-370 relating to regulation of road encroachment permitting for vehicle ingress egress. The second reading public hearing is scheduled for February 4th. First reading ordinance for the right-of-way road encroachment permitting for excavation and utility construction. County Engineer Jim Silliman presented for a first reading proposed ordinance KOC 19-620-24 relating to establishing regulation of road encroachment permitting for excavation and/or utility construction. The second reading public hearing is scheduled for February 4th. Supplemental agreement Goshen Hills Drainage Improvement Project. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Tice to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the supplemental contract agreement with Jacoby, Toombs, and Lance for the Goshen Hills Drainage Improvement Project Phase 1. Motion carried unanimously. Motorola agreement, the simulcast fire EMS paging system. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the communications system and service agreement with Motorola relating to the simulcast fire and EMS paging system. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Jerry Rankin of LaGrange thanked Tim Keel, Director of Oldham County Central Dispatch, for expeditiously resolving an issue he presented at a prior fiscal court meeting concerning his actual address and the address pulled up for dispatchers when he calls 911. Judge Vogel welcomed Chris Brook, the new news editor at the Oldham Era. Executive session. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hound, seconded by Magistrate Dye to end the closed session and return to the regular meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell, seconded by Magistrate Tice to allow the Judge Executive to enter into discussions with a potential recipient relating to an undisclosed piece of property. Motion carried unanimously. Announcements. Fiscal Court members thanked everyone who attended today's Fiscal Court meeting to express their concerns relating to the Second Amendment sanctuary movement and encouraged them to keep the momentum going by contacting senators and state representatives. Judge Vogel stated he would take their request under advisement. Magistrate Dye reminded the community to lock car doors, especially at night, to deter crime in the community. Magistrate Hounds announced Oldham County Dispatch received over 17,000 911 calls in 2019, 6,200 EMS calls, 3,500 fire calls, and several thousand for police. He thanked all the public safety workers in Oldham County for the continuous dedication and service they provide to the residents of Oldham County. Magistrate Greenwell stated today is the first day back for Oldham County students returning from winter break and asked drivers to be especially cautious in neighborhoods and in school zones. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously. The meeting was adjourned at 4:45 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from January 7th. Are there any corrections?
Judge?
Yes, sir.
Just there at the very end, 911 is 991 instead of 911.
Okay.
And then, we didn't read the addresses of the people that spoke in favor of the 2A, but one of them is Osage Road instead of Old Sage. It should be O-S-A-G-E.
Any other corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Heard from our last meeting, we mentioned about break-ins and cars. There was at least another break-in LaGrange last night. I know of one on 5th Street for sure. Please lock your car at night. There are, one or more individuals going around trying to find what they can in a vehicle that is either cash or something else that would be of value that may be pawned or whatever. We say this, but yet we can get home, get out of our car, forget to lock it. So you run a big risk. There's why this is going on. There's been a rash of it lately. So please lock your vehicle and keep your eyes open as well for strange activity in the middle of the night in your neighborhood. Call 911 if you see it. Our officers are there, and they will respond as quickly as they can. Time now for public comment. That's during our time during the meeting when members of the public can address the fiscal court for any thing they would like to talk about. I know a number of you have probably come to talk about the constitutional request regarding firearms. We're going to entertain that a little bit later into the schedule here. It's, whereabouts is that? It's,
G.
where is it?
G.
G, okay. I'm going to reserve public comment regarding that for right before the time the resolution is taken up. Okay, so we'll try to make those things be connected rather than speak now and have a resolution later. We'll put them both together. Is there anyone here who's come to talk about anything else the fiscal court today they'd like to speak about? Yes, sir. Yeah, please. We'd like to ask you to state your name and address clearly when you come to the microphone. There's a little black thing there, and it looks like a mouse, and that is the microphone. Please speak as loudly as you can to project so everyone in the room can hear you.
Okay. My name is Mike Darren, and I live at 2319 Running Brook Road, which is right off Fort Pickens Road here in LaGrange. And my issue, it involves gunfire, but it's not to do with the Second Amendment resolution. It has to do with an individual in our area that is making a lot of noise, making our area dangerous, in a lot of our opinion, with his gunfire. I'm okay with reasonable gunfire. I'm a hunter myself. I have an embankment set up. I believe in safe gunfire. I believe in safe hunting practices. But a little over 2 years ago, someone started shooting all kinds of ammunition. Low intensity, high intensity ammunition. It's 2-3 days a week, several hours a day, and it's kind of made things debilitating for people in the area. It's gotten a lot worse over the last few months, and some of the ammunition is not normal ammunition. I'm not a gun expert myself, even though I have guns. I've got a bachelor's degree in explosion investigation. I can tell you this is some kind of explosive ammo. It's got concussion to it. It's either explosive ammo, noise making, improvised fireworks at times, some kind of massive firework, or some kind of improvised explosive. It's somewhere in that range is the big blasts that are happening. Problems at my house, and I live half mile away from this person through the woods. You know, the woods create a lot of buffer, and it's still this loud. Dishes and my chandelier shake. You could hear my cabinets, the dishes in there shaking. My kids can't sleep when it happens. I can't sleep when it happens. Our dog shakes uncontrollably. We got to medicate him. We got to put him in other rooms. He cries, he whimpers, he gets on the kids because he's so scared of what's going on. We've talked to the police several times. They pretty much said that their hands were kind of tied on the situation with the laws. So we went there and talked to the person ourselves. We found out recently he's actually a renter. And we talked to him, and he kind of just shrugged at us when we said, very nicely, "You're keeping our kids awake. Can you please keep the gunfire down?" And he just kind of shrugged at us, shot off 2 or 3 more rounds as we pulled away and stopped for the night. That was our only run-in we had with him. Like I said, we're half mile away from him, and it's debilitating our lives. And now it seems like he's doing it out of spite because those loud blasts are getting even more intense over the last several months. And it's not just because the leaves came off the trees. It was before the fall, too. I can't imagine the people that live even closer to him. They have to deal with possible ricochet bullets coming through their yard. Come to find out this guy's shooting through woods where people's houses are backing up to. It's affecting hundreds of people in the area, I'm sure, because I represent 5 people in my household. I've got a friend that lives up the road. He actually moved, and this was part of the reason he moved. That was 5 people in his household. I've talked to several more people this is affecting. When I come out of my house towards my mailbox, where it's more in the open, it's unbelievable, the concussion that's being heard. So, like I said, I can't imagine the people that have to live closer to it. It's also affecting the wildlife in the area. I hoped it would stop by now, but it's just getting worse over time. And, you know, we kind of have a little slice of heaven back there. Everybody's very respectful. Some people hunt, some people shoot responsibly, and it's done in a manner that's respectable and reasonable. And this just seems like an unreasonable thing. So I've been talking to people in our area. Have been talking to Mr. Harrison. I talked to him before the meeting. He said he's going to look into this further. I'd just like the support of the fiscal court to at least look into this matter. And I had a couple ideas. You know, maybe make it to where renters can't shoot if it's land that they don't own. Because honestly, everybody's got rights, but landowners are more invested in the area. They're more likely to stay there long term. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Right. What I'll do is Mr. Harrison will work with you on that, but We do have a noise ordinance here, and we have a nuisance ordinance here. What you've described seems to fall possibly within those categories. Downstairs, we have a code enforcement officer. You can speak with him, and if there's a determination that the person is creating a nuisance or creating too much noise, he can be brought before the Code Enforcement Board, provide an explanation, and they have the tools there to ramp up pressure if those ordinances are being violated. Okay? Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before the fiscal court at this point? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public comment and go on to the first item on the agenda today. Has to do with some budget transfer items. These are taken care of by our county treasurer, Melissa Horn. We set out a budget for the year, but as circumstances progress through the year, expenses, details, things that were not anticipated when the budget was laid out come up, and that requires putting a budget amendment together to shift the funds around to maintain the integrity of each of the line items. So, Melissa, go ahead.
At the end of December, I am asking for line item transfers, which is just moving budgeted amounts from one budget line to another to cover expenditures. The total amount is $97,095. And there are 7 items that need to be transferred.
All right. Magistrate Dye, you
Yes, Judge, we talked about this in committee today, and I'm make a motion that we have this transfer to go through
second.
in the amount of 97,095 even.
Moved and seconded that we accept these budget transfers for whatever it was, $97,095.
95.
All right. Is there any discussion on that among the court members? Magistrate Hawkins.
I was inquiring about this, but maybe you could explain it to me a little bit better. There was something, the explanation was miscommunication of DFC grant continuing to fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $20,000. What is that?
What is which?
It's the LGEA fund.
Right, but what is your question? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
When this transfers, what was the miscommunication? I'm just
We
interested.
did not budget for that grant to continue. And after the budget was passed, we learned that the grant is continuing into this current year. The difference is that it's being managed by the health department instead of being managed by fiscal court.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And there's fund transfers
Okay.
to review with you. That's the second page. It's the transfers between the general fund and the other funds. So at the end of the first 6 months, the road fund has sent to general fund $260,900. Jail has sent to general fund $295,629. General fund has sent to the dispatch fund $183,862. And general fund has sent to LGEA $435,000.
Right, Magistrate Dye?
Yes, Judge, we also looked at this today, and I make a motion that we approve these transfers between the general funds and for the road, jail, dispatch, and LGEA. Net amount of -$62,333.91.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded that those transfers be approved. Discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda are the bills for the last 2 weeks. We all pay our bills, monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever it is, but we have to pay ours here every 2 weeks so that none of our vendors, other people who do business with the county government are forced into waiting an extended period of time to get paid. So the Magistrate Logston?
Second?
Any question on any of the items that are listed for this 2-week period?
Question.
Stephanie?
What is the, I don't remember seeing, and perhaps I've overlooked it, the indigent department where money was spent, 650 and then another 150?
That has, I believe, burial services. What was it, something else?
Legal services.
Legal services, okay.
Yep.
It's court-ordered legal services for indigent persons.
Okay, somebody that can't pay their own court fee.
Yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
This is a matter of information here for the people who are here today. We also pay burial fees for someone who dies just stone cold broke that has no family. It doesn't happen too often, but believe it or not, it does happen. And so we will provide a disposal of the body fee, if you will. And it's a shame in life when no one has anybody, but there are some people that wind up that way for one reason or another. And so we do take care of those things when they're forced upon us. We're sort of a court of last resort at that point. Can't expect the funeral parlor to absorb that type of behavior. All right, we'll go on now to the first item on the agenda, and that is, pardon? Oh, didn't vote? Okay, sorry. All in favor, please say aye of the paying the bills.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The, under contract agreements and resolutions, Greg Smith, come forward, a chief of police, to talk about a highway safety grant application.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, this is a resolution asking the court to allow you to sign an application for a grant through Kentucky Department of Highway Safety. It's the same traffic enforcement grant we get every year. No match to the county.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second? Normally, how much do we expect to get on that?
Last year was $48,000. We'll request the same amount this year, but probably won't get as much this year.
The money is used for enforcement on our highways, seatbelt enforcement, speeding enforcement. I think everybody knows pretty well now that we have ramped up as much as we can. Enforcement on the interstate, wrote over 3,800 tickets, I believe, out there last year. But it's irritating if you get stopped, but the best way not to get stopped is not to exceed the speed limit. And we're doing it for the safety of everyone. Particularly until our 6 lanes are built out to LaGrange. We have literally thousands of people going 80 miles an hour or more on our freeway out here every day. Since the enforcement ramped up, the number of accidents has been down, and we're thankful for that. So we're gonna keep it up, not to lean on any Oldham County people, but there's a lot of people from Ohio who apparently come through here and they just step on it when they get to Kentucky for some reason. And so we're not exclusively going after people from Ohio by any means, but I do see a lot of Ohio plates flying by me when I'm going down the road. I can't understand exactly why, but all right, Chief, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Moved and seconded that I be allowed to sign this highway safety grant application. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now Jim Urban will be here to talk about some Surface Louisville funds for the Park and Ride project at Apple Patch.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, magistrates. What we're asking for is fiscal court's approval to sign an amendment to the agreement with KYTC for an additional $121,530 in federal SLO funds for the park and ride. There is a resolution, and the number is 010121-20, so we're asking you to approve the resolution allowing the judge to sign the agreement itself. These funds are in anticipation of potential change orders on that project. If any of you have been by there, the project was almost done. The asphalt plant's closed. The last bit of it is to put the final coat of asphalt on, and then there'll probably be a small punch list. It's been going along really well. We're not sure that we're going to use any of these funds. There's no local match. They're covered by toll credits. So this money is in anticipation of a couple of change orders that we had. We may have enough money in the funds already, but just in case, they've allocated an additional $121,000. So,
All right, this is for finishing up possibly at a park and ride at Apple Patch. Apple Patch is a project on Highway 329 and Crestwood. It helps a lot of handicapped individuals live there at Apple Patch, but there was space there to put a park and ride in there, and the TARC comes out, is going to come out and pick up people there. We may also have soon the what's called Ticket to Ride, vans you may have seen where multiple people can share a van who may be heading into Louisville in a similar area to go to work. All of this is intended to keep congestion down and air quality up. So, is there any discussion on this, Magistrate Dye?
I'll make the motion, Judge. Second. That we approve the resolution and approve you to sign the amendment.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Magistrate Hounds?
Isn't it odd that we're asking for money that we don't know that we're going to need yet?
well, it's better that we have it in advance than we are short when it comes time to the billing. And again, I'm not sure that we will. We've had, again, until the final coat of asphalt gets put down and we have the quantities, we're not sure whether there's additional money going to be needed. So we did have change orders, so this is in anticipation of needing some of it.
Interesting way to do business.
Have they figured out the logistics on this, how they're gonna close down one and move the other one?
We've been working with TARC and their marketing department to do that, and unfortunately, it didn't happen before the end of the paving season, so we're waiting till we do pave, and then there are gonna be signs that are gonna be put up on the interstate as well as at the entrance to Apple Patch Way, and then they will notify their ridership, those regulars that are on the bus, and then I think they're gonna send out some kind of communication.
Judge?
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you. Chris, I applaud you for asking that question about why are we asking for it before we need it, but anyway. And to your comment about it, they've closed down the asphalt plants, there's a new neighborhood being put down out here in my district, and I noticed that they paved the road in the last 2 days.
Well, we and Jim Silliman, county engineer, was on top of, at Christmas, there were before Christmas, a couple of really good weather days for paving, and they didn't do it.
But they paved it when it was 17 degrees.
Yes, and the project deadline was the end of December, so we're not sure whether we're gonna charge them for not meeting their contract.
I just never heard of anybody laying blacktop when it was 17 and 15
Yeah.
degrees. That just,
Well, and there are standards for that, and I'm surprised that
it
they
did,
did
they,
that.
they didn't meet them, I
They
guarantee.
shouldn't have,
No.
yes. Not when it was that cold.
Magistrate Harrison.
Jim, just a couple questions on the history of this. When was this project first put out for bids?
Put out for bid?
Uh-huh.
Last year, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the dates, we actually had to bid it twice.
All right.
And I think it was awarded, and I'm sorry, I'm guessing, probably in July or August, and they did start immediately.
But when were the plans done prior to that?
Oh, the plans were done probably 12
2000.
months ago.
Oh.
We've been
We've
working on
had
this
plenty of
project for a
time,
long,
we've
long
had plenty
time.
of time to review this and ask questions. That was my point. We have had plenty of time as a body to review the plans and ask questions.
Yes.
And construction, because it's been ongoing for months.
For years, actually, yes.
All right, now prior to this, what land was being used for the park and tark?
There's a temporary parking lot on the south side of I-71 at Old 329, and there's an agreement with the property owner there where they put gravel down, and they've been using that as a temporary park and tark lot.
So that was out of the goodness of the heart of a private property owner,
That's
not on
correct.
county property.
That's correct.
So we're building something that is new for the county. It's a county facility for park and tark.
That's correct. It's the first permanent park and ride lot in the state of Kentucky.
We're first?
Yes.
Write that one down. Thank you.
That became complicated because we had to go to Florida to actually find standards that would meet the transportation cabinet's requirements for permanent park and ride lots. So anyway, that's part of the reason it took us so long.
Right? Ray should die.
Jim, it might be worth noting here that the Apple Patch people did provide the ground for this project, which was basically what got it off the ground, so to speak.
That's correct. They actually, we purchased their land and then they gave us the money back as a donation. And there's a new road that's built to connect 329, and so there's a loop that we go through, and then the land for the parking lot itself was part of that transaction. And it is now called Pillar. We keep using the word Apple Patch, but it's now called Pillar.
And there was a long, drawn-out process with one of the utilities, which I'll leave unnamed, that took forever.
It did.
Right? Anyone else? All right. Motion to approve being made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Now we're at the reimbursement resolution for the courthouse. Stan Clark.
Hi. A little background on this is, as everybody should know, we're building a new courthouse, and it will be bonded and paid back through a lease back with the state. Normally, when a courthouse project of this size is done, the upfront fees that need to be paid are usually bonded with a short-term bond that gets repaid from the bond that actually bonds the courthouse. There's extra expense required for that, and so fiscal court is upfronting the money for the soft cost and some of the architectural fees, so we can save money, save those financing costs of a short-term bond. Since the bond that we will issue will be a tax-exempt bond, we are required to, ahead of time, say that it's always been the intention that when we issue that bond to repay fiscal court the funds that they advanced on the project. And that's what this reimbursement resolution is, saying that basically fiscal court is going to pay some of the fees until we actually bid it. We cannot permanently bond it until we have a bid out and know what the dollar amount is, and at that time, which we're hoping to be this spring. And when we found out that in the bid will be the demolition cost involved as well, the upfront costs aren't that great, just architectural fees, basically. So this is basically saying that for the funds that fiscal court puts out prior to the bonding, we're going to repay fiscal court from those project funds. That's what the reimbursement request resolution is. And anybody have any questions about it?
All right, first of all, is there a motion that I'd be allowed to sign this resolution for short-term financing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion? Commissioner Harrison?
Stan, thank you for that. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, especially with this project, and it's not that we're trying to conceal anything from anybody. It's just a lot of moving parts. What is the actual funding source for the courthouse that we're doing? Where does the money ultimately come from?
It's going to come from issuing a bond, okay?
and if it sticks to the estimated cost of 22.5 million, I think, or 22.8, the bond would be for that amount. There's a public facilities corporation that's been set up to handle this, okay? And that's who eventually will bond it and take those things. And when the bond, 22 point whatever gets issued, that's where the fiscal court gets paid back. Now, the AOC enters an agreement with Oldham County to pay us, quote, a lease payment. And they basically are going, the state's going to make the payments on this 20-year bond. In effect, what it comes down to. So really, the state is going to be paying for the construction of the courthouse.
So essentially, it's coming out of state funds
Correct.
that were allocated by the state legislature.
Correct.
They're not coming out of our budget.
No.
All right, thank you. A lot of people misunderstand it. They think we're paying for the
We're
courthouse.
just upfronting a little bit of cost up front to save everybody money, and then at the end, fiscal court gets paid back 100%.
We're totally reimbursed for our cost.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? I had mentioned earlier before you came in the room that was going to have a meeting, the Public Facilities Construction Corporation, after this meeting,
Okay.
correct?
Correct.
That's what we need, okay. All right, are there any other questions about this? All right. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Clark, and now we have the, you're going to talk about the debt agreement here with MSD?
A while back, the fiscal court approved a interlocal agreement, LOA, for the transfer of assets from our sewer district to MSD. Part of that agreement was their purchase price is taking over all the debt, okay? Some of the debt is going to be transferred directly to them, such as the KIA, but there's some pieces that they are, basically MSD is going to agree to pay and make the payments on, and the debt will remain in fiscal court's name. MSD will make payments, very similar to what we're doing today. This debt is in Oldham County Fiscal Court's name today, but all payments have been made by OSEA, the sewer district, and that's the way it will continue. And so there's three pieces of debt, for lack of so there's three agreements here. One is what is through CAECO, so it's a sublease of because the way CAECO finances things, they do a lease. You buy it and it was subleased. So the leasee is Oldham County Fiscal Court. The subleasee has been OSEA. Basically, this agreement's going to take OSEA out as a subleasee and replace them with MSD. The other two relate to general obligation bonds that the county issued for the sake of OSEA. One's the 2009 bond, and another one's a 2014 bond. Bonds that were used in the past to build things such as the Ohio River Treatment Plant, and most recently, the new South Oldham Regional Treatment Plant. Those are, and other things, as well as pipes in the ground and stuff. So there's three agreements here. Basically, this is a continuing process of the interlocal agreement. This is the assignment of the debt. This is to be assigned and dated the day that we actually sign the asset purchase agreement, which is still being worked on by OSEA and is still in progress, and may be a little while before we get to that, but we want to go ahead and have the debt agreement ready to go, so when the time comes, this has been agreed to by White Tarrant Combs, OSEA's counsel, MSD's counsel, and of course, County Attorney John Carter has reviewed them as well.
Right, is there a motion that I be allowed to sign these three potential transfer of responsibility agreements from OSEA to MSD?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Commissioner Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. When it came time to vote for the interlocal agreement, I voted against it along with another magistrate, and I think the vote was 7-2. That being said, it's a done deal, I think, but I'm not going to vote against the agreements for the financing and everything, so I just wanted to explain that beforehand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Magistrate Hawkins?
I was the second magistrate, along with Magistrate Greenwell, to vote against the ILA, but I'll vote in support of the finance agreements as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That's item G. And that one is the one that has to do with the resolution that probably most of you have come here today for. So we understand that some of you would like to speak in favor of taking some type of action. So is there anybody here who would like to come to the podium and do that now? Okay, one at a time, but in the same format as last time. State your name, address, and please try to project so everybody in the room can hear you.
Judge,
Good afternoon.
excuse me, is there some way we could restrict repetitive comments from the earlier meeting so that we just hear new comments today and not a rehash of everything before?
Well, probably not. And the reason is that everybody who lives in the community is here. I'm not going to take comments from people who don't live in the community, but everybody likes to have a chance to speak, and let's go ahead and listen. Okay.
Okay, my name's Richard Gray, and live at 1929 Miller Lane, LaGrange. And I'm not here to speak for myself, I'm here to speak for my daughter, 16 years old. She wrote this, and she wanted to be here today to read it herself to the court, but I wouldn't let her miss school. So education's important. I'm gonna read this to you all, and that's all I have to say. Other than, I think when we discussed before at the public safety meeting, I think as of today, there's 81 counties that have passed a resolution, and a lot of them are going to stay away from the sanctuary because of the House Bill or Senate Bill 1. So just so you know. But anyway, this is her letter. And starts out Second Amendment sanctuary, but we'll just call it a declaration. She said, "Good afternoon. My name is Brianna Gray, and I have some things I would like to say. First, let me start off by stating the Second Amendment word by word. The Second Amendment from the Constitution reads as follows, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, unquote. Shall not be infringed. According to Merriam-Webster.com, infringe means, quote, to encroach upon in a way that violates law or the rights of another, unquote. So, shall not be infringed as written states the right to bear arms should not be violated. By placing laws against the Second Amendment, I and many others believe that is violating our right to bear arms. I, as a 16-year-old, cannot vote, so I cannot choose what happens to my rights. I'm growing up in a country where my right to protect myself in the future is being attacked on a daily basis. I want to be able to trust that my lawmakers will protect my rights until I am old enough to vote and run for political office. I should be able to trust that you, the Board of Public Safety and Fiscal Court, will keep myself and many others safe by voting to pass a resolution to protect the Second Amendment. I mean, it's your job to keep your constituents safe, and by voting not to pass the law is, well, not keeping us safe. Thank you. And that's all she has to say.
Thank you, Rick.
Judge, Magistrates, my name's Andrew Gaylor, 9600 Darby Creek Court in Crestwood. I have here, is this working? I don't know. I have here a petition which has been signed by 266 members, residents of Oldham County. There are 16 pages and 17 signatures on each page. I submit that to the court for your consideration. This petition calls for Oldham County Fiscal Court to adopt a Second Amendment ordinance for the county. And when the citizens reviewed and signed this petition, there was attached to it an ordinance, proposed ordinance, which included the long form which I had submitted to the judge many weeks ago, and it included with it the word sanctuary. I understand there is, what's being proposed to be voted on today does not include that language, and even though it does not include the language, I do encourage the court to pass that resolution today. But this is 266 people that signed this in Oldham County. There were about 80 people that were here 2 weeks ago, plus the people here today. And every person that's here, we stand for 10 others who want this to pass, who couldn't be here today. So I ask you to pass this resolution, and I would like you to do this as a message to those in Frankfort and in Washington, D.C., that we do not want any more gun control. There are 79 or 80 other counties in Kentucky which I understand have passed resolutions or ordinances similar to this, and I would ask that we do the same here today. I submit to you all that the Second Amendment is the gateway to our Bill of Rights. There's nothing more important in this country than our Bill of Rights. It's the individual citizen's liberty which is at stake, and this starts with the Second Amendment. For 85 years, the Second Amendment has been under constant attack by people who would seek to degrade it. It has been slowly eroded away by incremental restriction and regulation year after year, with more regulations passed. And we all need to speak up to protect this right while we still can. Because once it is gone, we will not get it back. The Constitution is our contract with government. 232 years ago, we the people ratified the Constitution, and we agreed to be governed by the people that we elect and put in office. But the Bill of Rights was a restriction that we placed on that power. It is not an unlimited power to govern. I submit to you that when politicians attempt to pass laws preventing us from owning AR-15s, standard capacity 30-round magazines, that they are breaching that contract with the citizens, and we need to vote them out. I submit to you that every time a politician submits a registration scheme to require gun owners to register what they own with the government, that is a violation of that contract, and we need to vote them out. I submit to you that when politicians tell Kentucky gun owners that they support the Second Amendment to get our votes, and then they support gun control, we should vote them out. I submit to you that when politicians say they support the Second Amendment, but you should not be allowed to own an AR-15, I submit to you that we should vote those people out, because they are not honest. I submit to you that our own Kentucky Senator Ernie Harris has been in office for over 20 years. He's a Republican who ran as a Second Amendment supporter with an NRA A rating. And then in September 2019, he published a letter to the Oldham Era stating that he supports assault weapons bans and red flag laws after using the votes of the gun owners of Oldham County for 20 years. We need to vote him out. These attacks on our rights do not stop at party lines. I encourage everyone here to find out what politicians support your Second Amendment rights and to support them, and to find out which ones that do not, and to vote them out. For those elected officials that do support the Second Amendment, we need to give those officials our support. And I will use Magistrate Hawkins as an example. In the spring of 2018, Magistrate Hawkins attended a Republican candidate forum at the LaGrange Baptist Church, and I was there. And I want to commend her because out of all the many Republican candidates that spoke that day, Magistrate Hawkins was the only one who stood up and said loudly that she strongly supports the Second Amendment. I commend her for that commitment, and we all need to give her our support. I
Okay,
want to thank the
Mr. Gaylor,
magistrates.
remember our format was 4 minutes per speaker.
Yes,
I've
sir.
let you run a couple minutes over here now, because
I'm
I
concluding
hate to
right now.
cut you off when you're talking about politicians, because it seems like it might be why I'm cutting you off, but it's really, I was gonna stop you until you started complimenting Measure Hawkins, so I thought, well, that's a bad time too, you know, but I think we get your point here.
Thank you, Judge, and
All
thank you, Magistrates.
Thank you.
Please support this resolution today.
All right, thank you. Or anybody else who would like to say something?
John Dethridge, 2910 Shiloh Lane, Goshen, Kentucky. I'm not going to repeat everything I said the last time I spoke, but after the meeting, I read some Facebook posts, and I agree with Magistrate Harrison's proposal to take out the word sanctuary and instead install Oldham County to be a Second Amendment constitutional county. I think that's very appropriate. That's what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address this issue?
This is going to be the second time I've been here.
I would ask you to state your name and address, please.
My name is Stephen Spicer. I live at 137 Court I, Copperstone Point, Mobile Home Park. Other than the fact that I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, that I am a concealed carrier, or usually, but not right now, of course. You guys want to vote for an amendment, I guess it's lack of a better word, stating that we are a constitutional Second Amendment institution, or county. I'm for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public comment and go on to the fiscal court now. Magistrate Hounds.
Yes, Judge, I'd like to read the resolution that came out of the Public Safety Committee. It's Resolution 02012120, declaring Oldham County support for the Second Amendment. Whereas the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of our nation, and whereas the Second Amendment to the Constitution states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and whereas the United States Supreme Court in the District of Columbia versus Heller, 554 U.S. 570 in the year of 2008, affirmed an individual's right to possess firearms unconnected with service in a militia for traditionally lawful purposes, such as self-defense within the home, and whereas the United States Supreme Court in McDonald versus Chicago, 561 U.S. 742 in 2010, affirmed that the right of an individual to keep and bear arms is protected under the Second Amendment, is incorporated by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment against the states, and whereas the United States Supreme Court in United States versus Miller, 307 U.S. 174 in 1939 states that firearms are that part of an ordinary military equipment or with the use that could contribute to the common defense are protected by the Second Amendment, and whereas the Oldham County Fiscal Court wishes to express its deep commitment to the rights of all citizens of Oldham County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Oldham County Fiscal Court wishes to express opposition to any law that would unconstitutionally restrict the rights of the citizens of Oldham County to keep and bear arms. Therefore, be it resolved, we, the people of Oldham County, Kentucky, through this resolution, do hereby declare our support for our rights, our freedoms, and our liberties as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America, and reiterate our support for the Second Amendment, in particular, as clearly stated in the Constitution, and strongly proclaim and make it known our opposition to place any unconstitutional restrictions upon it. I would ask, Judge, that you sign this resolution today.
All right, moved and seconded. I sign the resolution as presented. Is there any discussion? Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I strongly support the resolution as just read by Magistrate Helms, and I think it's important that we understand that various words in our language have multiple meanings. I've heard from multiple speakers in here today and 2 weeks ago, rights. Rights. We have rights. We have our gun rights. We have our rights to shoot. I don't disagree with you, but your right to shoot stops where my rights begin, and those rights include peace and quiet in my neighborhood and safety. And we just had a gentleman talk to us a few minutes ago about how his neighborhood is not one of peace and quiet, and it's not one of safety. That may be the only incident in Oldham County, but I'm well aware of it because I get phone calls just about every week from that neighborhood. That is not the only place in Oldham County, but that is the one where I get repetitive phone calls. People out there are afraid of their neighbors. They should not be. They have a right to live in peace and quiet. Oddly enough, most of the shooting occurs after the county courthouse closes and occurs on the weekends and in the evenings when it's difficult to get the right officials out there to observe it or to hear it. Another word that's being used quite frequently is infringement. Those of you who may be involved in shooting in your neighborhood, you are infringing on the rights of other people in the neighborhood. So infringement cuts both ways. Your rights, regardless of what they are, as covered by the Constitution, also bring with them certain obligations for you. And that those rights and obligations accompany every one of the amendments we've got. Johnny Cash once said that he respected everybody had a second right amendment a First Amendment right to burn our flag. And if you wanted to cut it up into pieces, you want to burn it, you want to stomp on it, that is your right. But he has a right under the Second Amendment to shoot your no-good ASS if you burn his flag. And I agree with that, but that's how we have to learn to work together with these different amendments and parts of the Constitution. I am a gun owner, a safety nut, an NRA. I've still got the first rifle I got when I was 12 years old, and it still fires, but I don't shoot in my neighborhood. I was startled to find out that the range of a .223 round shot by an AR-15 can travel up to 3.7 miles. 3.7 miles, that's out of the book. It's traveling at a force of 3,000 to 3,700 feet per second, the speed of that. A .22 caliber can travel 1.5 miles, a little bitty .22 caliber bullet. The AR-15, that bullet will hit you with a force of 700 foot-pounds. These are not toys. These are not guns that we see on television in the movies that shoot people and they jump right up and they show up in the next movie. These are weapons. They're designed military grade, and we need to be more conscious of the effects of them and look upon those around us and keep them safe. You keep everybody safe, I got no problem with the shooting. But when you start shooting in my neighborhood, crazy as I am, I'm liable to return fire, but I didn't say that. But that's what used to happen years and years ago. And now everybody's got guns, but keep your rights, but don't let your rights infringe upon my rights or the rights of others. That's all we're asking. And I'm sure everybody in this room doesn't have a problem with that. You're safe gun owners, you're safe shooters, but a lot of people out there are not. As far as your petition, Mr. Gaylor, I think it represents about 0.4% of the population in Oldham County, so I appreciate the fact you've gotten 266 signatures, but I don't think the county has spoken. I think a segment of it did. And we still have yet to hear from the silent majority, and I hope we hear from them soon. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, moved and seconded that I sign this resolution, and we will be forwarding this resolution, if passed, to all of the Oldham County representatives in the state legislature. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item here today has to do with the cell tower agreement, and Tim Keel. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to ask for the judge's signature on a consent letter for Verizon Wireless to upgrade our OCD tower. The tower was signed over to OCD as owners in 2019 by the judge, and they're wanting to put some extra equipment on that tower, remove some, put some new up, which is about 500 pounds, which would put us over the limit. We're about 200% maximization on that tower right now, which is a lot of weight. So with the upgrades, we would be at 61%. I believe, if I remember the form, there will be no cost to Oldham County. The timeline is about 3 weeks, and there would be no, I've asked them to promise, obviously in writing, that there would be no interruption of our current emergency services, because we have equipment obviously on that tower currently. So,
All right, so in other words, Verizon Wireless is willing to upgrade our tower at no charge to us if they can put some other things on it.
yes, sir.
Is that correct? And that'll
They're going to pull some things off and then add to it, but it's
be
an
a
additional
benefit to
500
the county in the
pounds.
long run.
Yes, sir.
Right.
It'll
Or-
raise us from a Class 2 structure to a Class 3 structure, which is what we want.
Okay, would that allow us to put other things on that tower that may come along and pay us a rent or something?
We're still going to be tight on the weight. I don't know that we'll have, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room based on, I know the simulcast system passed last week. We will be adding equipment for that.
Our own equipment, right?
Yes, sir. So I don't know that, I couldn't say at this point definitively that, yes, we could have some outside vendors come in.
Would it make the tower safer for all concerned?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's positive, all right. Let's see if we've got a motion on this.
I'll make that motion, Judge. You signed the agreement between Verizon Wireless and Oldham County to allow them to add to the tower and strengthen the tower.
Second?
Right, moved and seconded, we allow Verizon to add to the tower and strengthen it. Now, discussion, Magistrate Hawkins.
Hi, Tim. There are a lot of things being added that I don't know what they are, like hybrid line that's 280 feet long, for example, but many of those. How will this aesthetically change the look of the tower, and will it add height to it, or girth, or
It's
tell
not-
me about what it'll look like and how it'll look different?
The tower's 300 foot tall. With our add-on at the top, we're at about 308 feet. That's with lighting and everything. There will be no noticeable difference, to my knowledge, of what we have now.
So all these lines, the 280 feet of line, and then 275 feet and 280, that's not gonna,
We already have that, so what they're gonna do, as far as I understand it, I'm not an engineer, but I believe about every 60 feet, they will either add to or replace those guy wires, if that's what you're referring to.
okay.
And then there will be cross members on each section of the tower from top to bottom to strengthen it. But even with the guy wire change, there will be aesthetically no difference than what we have now.
Aren't they just increasing the diameter? Isn't that what you told me? The guide wires increase
believe so.
diameter?
Yeah.
The number doesn't change, but the diameter of the guide wire changes.
Yes.
So no more height,
No more height.
and any of these other, the diplexer or any of these things aren't gonna add like,
No, some of the
bulky
equipment that is coming down
things
is just going to
that
be a
we have to look at.
replacement with new. So, no,
Okay.
it won't, there will be not much noticeable change.
Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. Do they give us any kind of a plan stamped by a structural engineer stating that this will be stronger than it was, or has our engineer looked at what they're doing?
Our engineer has not, but what we had, BTM Engineering out of Louisville, which you know, I believe, did the initial survey on the tower, and I asked Verizon to have them do this study. They also did the study for the 800 system, so they're very familiar with our system and our tower. So,
We have a stamped drawing?
Do.
Okay,
yes, I do.
good.
Magistrate Dye.
Yes, Tim. Seeing that Verizon's taking things off and putting things on, how does that, what if Oldham County wanted to take some things off and put some things on? Would that
We
encroach upon the
we
part of the tower that they're using, or do we have some room up there left over?
We have some room. We're currently on the tower, so what we would do if we move forward with this simulcast, we would actually replace some equipment as well. So that's what this is going to help us. Even though we have some microwave dishes up there that they might be lighter, but the profile on the dish is bigger. So that comes in with wind. So them upgrading the tower will put us at a class 3, which will definitely help with that.
So we're not losing any possible valuable space down the road?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Did we get a motion on this? I think we did. All right, moved and seconded that we allow Verizon to go forward and work with them on this addition to the cell tower. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Road Committee, some bond releases. County Engineer Jim Sullivan.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So we got 7 bond releases that were reviewed at Road Committee 2 weeks ago. We'd like to bring those forward individually for recommendation for release. The first is Brentwood Section 2, which has passed inspection for the bond release, and we'd like to release the bond in the amount of $20,000 to Oldham Farms Development.
Mr. Greenwell.
Judge, all of these bond releases were discussed in Road Committee meeting on January the 7th and were approved. I believe the Brentwood ones are in Magistrate Dye's district.
All right. All right, so do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion, we approve. We're going to do these one at a time, right?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay, I think we went down that road before. I'll make a motion, we approve the bond release on Brentwood Section 2.
Mr. Remo, second that?
I did.
Okay, discussion? Mr. Harrison?
I just got a question. Do all of us up here know where these developments are? I mean, we're voting kind of blind, because I'm not sure we do.
This is in Crestwood, just at the kind of the southwest quadrant of 329 and 71. These will actually, some of the previous performance bonds we've held or had voted on. After that, you'll also vote or have a motion whether you want to adopt them into the road system. These will not have that because they'll go into Crestwood's system.
Thank you.
To answer your question, Albert, that, for those who don't know, Brentwood is at the top of Clore Lane off of 22. I know you know where it is, but.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I might note that Magistrate Tice has left the meeting, so he did not vote. The vote was 8-0. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Did you want to go and make the motion?
Yeah, I'm going to make the motion for to approve the bond release on Brentwood Section 3.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries 8-0. Erosion control bonds.
The next 5 are erosion control bonds. The first of the 5 is for the Old Pond 5 restoration project that was located in the Oldham Reserve. Red Wing Environmental, which served as an inspection consultant on this, has also concurred that the project is complete with regard to erosion control, and we'd recommend that the bond in the amount of $44,590 be released to environmental management specialists.
Motion, please.
I'll
Judge,
make
that, go ahead.
I'll make that motion, Judge, that we release the bond on the Pond 5 and the Oldham Reserve. Pond 5 restoration in Oldham Reserve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that?
Should the motion say erosion control bond, not just bond? Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we have an erosion control bond in the amount of $15,000 for Poplar Woods Section 1. We recommend releasing that to Terra Acquisitions.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded that the $15,000 bond for Terra Acquisitions, erosion control, be released.
Where is that one?
It's off 42 in Goshen, Highway 42.
I know several years ago, we kind of had a policy that we try not to have a name of a new subdivision similar to a name of an existing subdivision. And we're running out of trees, I guess. I don't know, but we've got poplars here and there, and elms here and there, and maples here and there. I feel sorry for Central Dispatch. I know with today's technology, it's probably not that much of an issue, but it can be confusing. Thank you.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Next is Poplar Woods Section 2 in the amount of $29,200, recommending release to Terra Acquisitions.
That motion, Judge.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Next is Poplar Woods Sections 3 and 4A, and these are together, and this is also erosion control bond release in the amount of $55,000. This is to Poplar Woods 3 LLC.
Make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a discussion on that one,
All
just a
right.
little bit. It's kind of odd to me that Section 1 and 2 are just not getting released with 3 and 4 being done. Was this just something overlooked, or?
I believe so, as the owner only requested them all at this time.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Final one.
The last is Sky Automotive, and that's just north of where we are on 53. It's a relatively small business in LaGrange, and they've met the ordinance requirements to release the bond. That's in the amount of $11,010 to Sky Automotive LLC.
I'll make that motion, but
Second.
All right.
I had a question on it.
Moved and seconded. All right.
Will that be
Discussion.
treated similar to Brentwood because it's in the city?
This is erosion control, not performance bond.
Okay,
So
all right.
those are separate items.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you. 8-1.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you. Is Tina Schaaf here, please, Human Resources Director? And we'll just hang on a second. We'll let Magistrate Tice return to his seat. I don't know, we're not picking it up on the camera here, but for those at home, Magistrate Tice, an unfortunate accident between the top of a ladder and the ground, and he's getting better, but he's still he's limping, but not as much as he used to. So,
Thank you. I was trying to do that quietly where it wouldn't be noticed.
that's all right.
It didn't at all.
It's a good lesson for everybody over 65. Be careful on a ladder. You know.
Or under 65.
The fall didn't hurt.
Or
him.
anybody. You don't have
that
to be
sudden
over
stop
65.
hurt him.
just your balance isn't as good once you reach a certain point, you know. All right, go ahead, Tina.
We have some personal actions at the road department. We have John Hurley, who is retiring after 20 years of being with the county, and that's effective January 31st.
Judge, I'll make a motion that we accept that retirement.
All right. Moved and seconded, we accept John Hurley's retirement. John has been with us for quite a long while. I don't know the exact number of years. Do you, Tina?
It'll be 20 on the 26th of this month.
20 years. So 20 years on the road department is a lot of work, and I thank John for everything he's done for the county. He's gotten out early, been out there in inclement weather around the clock. We wish John the very best and thank him for everything he's done for Oldham County. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries.
The next item is a new hire. It's Kiefer Johnson. He's going to be an equipment operator 2 at $15 an hour, effective tomorrow.
All right.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. We hire Kiefer Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And we have a promotion, Gary Miller. He will be the work detail supervisor at $19 an hour, and that'll be effective today.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries.
The next item is a new hire. We have Chip Swanson as stormwater coordinator at $55,575 per year, effective tomorrow.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
And for Parks and Rec, we have a retirement, Tim Curtis. He's been with us for 18 and a half years, and that will be effective at the end of the month, January 31st.
I'll make that motion.
I make the motion, we make him stay.
I'll make that motion, Tina.
Withdraw that.
Is there a second? Got a motion and a second here.
Second.
All right. All right, same thing for Tim, 18 years in the Parks Department. We wish Tim the very best, thank him for everything he's done to raise our parks program, to be out there, help kids and families enjoy recreation. We're all work and no play makes for no fun in life. So Tim has helped provide some of the activities that people have enjoyed in the community over the last 20 years, and has done a good job managing our community center and our pool and other things. So we wish Tim the absolute best. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. And I'd like to mention, too, I think there will be a reception for Tim and John later this month. On the last day of the month, is it? Or what day is it, Tina? Do you remember?
31st.
On the 31st at the community center from, what, 1
It's
to 3?
11:30.
Is it 11?
11:30 to 1 or something.
Right, so everyone's invited to come down and send them off, wish them their best. Retirement is sweet sorrow. It's nice to be on a new adventure, have freedom and do what you'd like to do. It's also sad to say goodbye to the people you've worked with and won't see as often in the future. Okay, next one.
We have police. We have a contract renewal for Tracy Witt, the school resource officer, and that contract was attached.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second. Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Did I hear everybody, or did I hear? I heard two voices.
I heard two, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard, too. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay.
The last item is a resignation from Mike Smith, and that's effective the 17th of January.
All right. Officer Mike Smith has been with the Oldham County Sheriff's Department. He's been one of our school resource officers. He's done a very good job in both positions for us, but at this point, his circumstance is such that he has to discontinue.
Make that motion, Judge.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 And the same wish goes to Mike Smith. He's not exactly retiring, but we'll miss Mike, and we thank him for everything he's done to provide safety and service in Oldham County over the years. He's been a great law enforcement officer in both the sheriff's department and as a school resource officer. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're at some board appointments here. That'd be under K. I'd like to reappoint Larry Otterback to a term on the Board of Adjustments. Larry has been with the board for some time, listened carefully to the cases that come before the Board of Adjustments, and I think he's been a very good leader there. So I'd like to recommend that he be continued in that position.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that?
Yes. I will echo your comments, Judge, and I've appeared before that board on multiple occasions, and Mr. Otterback does an excellent job of conducting and controlling a meeting. And if you're not doing anything on one of his days, you ought to stop in and just observe. It's worth it. He does a really good job.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The next appointment I'd like to make today is Jason Ballard. He's a new appointee to the Board of Adjustments, replacing Tom Clemens, whose schedule doesn't allow him to continue with the board any further. I had a resume in here for Jason. He's a business consultant, coach, and trainer. I think he'll make he's a reflective and well-spoken, educated individual who will also do a good job in examining the cases that come before the board.
You going to make that motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
All right. All right, any further discussion on it or anything? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. My next reappointment here is to the Ethics Commission, Devonna Riggs, CPA. And Devonna has been on the Ethics Commission. Ethics Commission examines the submissions annually that come from all public officials in Oldham County to make sure there are no conflicts of interest. We haven't had any actual ethics claims or ethics issues come before the board this past year. I'm thankful for that. I believe we operate a very open and fair organization here, and I'm thankful there are no need to have questions come up about ethics. But nevertheless, we do maintain an ethics commission, and Devonna Riggs has been a good member. So is there a motion? I'd like to make the motion that she be reappointed.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Okay.
Oh, you made it.
Yeah, I made it, but I'm kind of making these and somebody's seconding them. That's okay. We're getting the job done. All right, now we've got the ambulance taxing district. All of you know about that. We have a coordination with Baptist Healthcare, Oldham County, and provides all the locations for the ambulances, and we provide the ambulances themselves, the equipment in the ambulances, things like that. Baptist Healthcare, our partner, provides the personnel to operate the ambulances, also provides all the billing services for the ambulances. This is our beginning of, in July, will be the beginning of our 8th year with this partnership. In that time, we have had excellent results. We've had no increases in the cost of ambulance service in Oldham County, no tax increase related to ambulance service. Also like to thank Stan Clark, who is on our EMS board, as is my deputy, Kevin Nuss. And now I'd like to reappoint as chairman of the board, Dr. Thomas Clark, for a term to expire November 9th, 2021. He's done an excellent job in managing that relationship and that service, and very happy to ask for make a motion for his reappointment. All right. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're at the time for our second public comment during the meeting. If you'd like to come right up, and very happy to hear from you. Same thing as earlier in the meeting here. Please state your name and address clearly and project a little bit so everybody can hear you.
Lynn Ward, 2311 Running Brook Road in LaGrange. I'd like to support my neighbor's comments, and I thank y'all for listening to us about this issue, and I thank Magistrate Harrison for his support as we've all been bombarding him with calls. I want you to realize that this is not a theoretical situation. This is real, and it represents a real danger to us. More than my husband and another neighbor have actually had bullets come past them when we've been on our own property. I appreciate the thought, and we had considered that of addressing it as a noise issue or a nuisance issue, and we'll take any avenue we can, but it is much more than that. It is a true danger. And this one person in our neighborhood, and I'm sure other people in other neighborhoods, are kind of holding us hostage to enjoying our own property. Like the neighbor across the street from this person won't even let his children play outside, and that's not right. So thank you for your attention, and hopefully we can come up with a solution that not only addresses our issue, but I'm sure it's a countywide issue.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Ward. Jim Urban, you may have come in later. I'd like you to meet with these people, and okay, Chief Smith as well. If someone's, I don't know. The law is tricky on this, I guess, but if somebody's creating a safety problem in that neighborhood, firing a weapon, we have to step up. We're going to step up and do what we can to get this shut off. So between the planning and zoning and police department, I think, we'll be able to make some headway. I'll be happy to go out there myself and talk to the individual if need be. We supported earlier today gun rights, okay, but we don't support unsafe conditions anywhere in Oldham County. And random firing or things that rattle your house, these things that, just can't go on. So, all right, thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody else like to address public
Judge,
comment?
I had a teacher when I was growing up said, "My right to swing my arm stops where your nose begins." And that's what they were saying. When your rights start infringing on other people's rights, that's where they stop.
Right, I agree with it. All right, thank you. I see, I guess apparently no one else who's interested in addressing the public comment right now, so we'll close that. And we're going to wind up our meeting here in a moment, and then for the purpose of what Mr. Clark said earlier, we'll need to be maintained here and convene a meeting of the Oldham County Public Facilities Construction Corporation. We don't expect that meeting to take more than a few minutes. It's a perfunctory thing more than anything, but it's something that's perfunctory, something we need to do, but we need to say we did it, okay? Since I've been county judge, the Public Facilities Construction Corporation has met no more than twice. So it's just a requirement in the law that we do this the right way. So let's have we'll end our meeting here and see if Magistrate Likens has anything he'd like to add today.
Oh, thank you, Judge.
All right. Magistrate Tice,
Nothing today. Thank you, Judge.
you getting better?
I am.
Okay, good. We're glad to see it. Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I have no military observances to report, and with the exception of a certain location on Fort Pickens Road, everything in the district is relatively quiet.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. In referencing the Second Amendment and the interest we've had in the individual's expressions and all that, I heard today, or read today, where the Virginia General Assembly is considering a law that would outlaw shooting ranges in buildings that have 50 or more employees. And I thought, this is the strangest thing I ever heard of in my life. Well, they're targeting the NRA. the NRA headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia, has a shooting range, imagine that, in their building. And so they employ more than 50 people. There actually is another building in Virginia that qualifies also, so they would get shut down were this law to be passed. So if you think things can't go south very quickly, think about that the Commonwealth of Virginia may have been where this country was born, although Massachusetts might have something to say about that. But it just shows you when you get too close to Washington, D.C., how things can go afoul very quickly. The people from D.C. have moved into the state of Virginia to live because they don't want to live in D.C., and so they've now imposed their rights on a Commonwealth that would have never considered this 2 years ago, let's just say. So anyway, we have to be vigilant is what I'm saying.
Well, I would say off the top of my head, with not a lot of reflection, but still, my reaction is that if that law were to pass in Virginia, and even though we're out of the D.C. area, I'd be very happy to talk with the NRA about moving their headquarters to Oldham Reserve. We won't have that problem in Kentucky.
Yet.
Yet, but I understand. That's should hounds.
Judge, you made a comment about it earlier about people locking their car doors at night. That also goes for the doors of your home, your garage, and other places. Make sure that you don't make it easy for people to come in and pick up your personal belongings. Comment about the 2A resolution that we did. It was a humbling experience to have the people come talk to us at the last fiscal court and the few today. I've gotten quite a few emails, quite a few nice conversations with constituents in my district and not in my district in support and opposition of this. And I just want to make everybody aware that your voice was heard. I can tell you, being the chair of the Public Safety Committee, the other members, Magistrate Tice and Magistrate Dye, we had, I would say, several conversations and email exchanges to get to where we are today. So we did put in a lot of time and effort to produce the resolution, which I think is a very good resolution. And Judge, I look forward to the email that says that you forwarded that to our representatives in Frankfurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Magistrate Hawkins.
Tomorrow marks an anniversary for an important Supreme Court decision, and that decision affected millions of those in my generation and generations that follow, as I was born after the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision. And so I wanted to bring attention to that and lift up anybody in prayer who's been affected by abortion. And in addition to that, yesterday we celebrated MLK Day, and Martin Luther King Jr. marched peacefully for equal rights among all. And I would encourage anybody to support either financially or pray for or go yourself to the March for Life, which is in Washington, D.C. this Friday, and march for equal rights among all. And a recent statistic shows that 67% of abortions are from the African American community, Hispanic community, and another community labeled other, which is non-white. So a March for Life this Friday in Washington, D.C. would be a peaceful march for equal rights for all, including the unborn. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Dye.
Thank you, Judge. In regards to the Second Amendment today, to echo what Magistrate Hounds has said, it's great to see people come here and voice their opinion. There's kind of a phrase that goes around the magistrates' conference that local government works. I think this is an example that it does. So if you've got a complaint in your district, you know one of these gentlemen and this lady here is your magistrate. We will work with you. We sometimes can't fix it the way you want it, but we'll listen and do the best we can. But back to the Second Amendment, we've got the document signed, and the judge is gonna send it up there to Frankfurt and to our people that represent this county. But, you all still gotta do the work. There are not these people in here anymore now, so you still gotta send stuff to your legislator. We can't, you know, you gotta do some of the heavy lifting too. Thank you.
Right. Magistrate Logston. I know. I reversed the order today, so you'd have the last word. All right, thank you. Okay. Pardon? No. All right. All right, thank you for being with, excuse me, thank you for being with us today. Had a good fiscal court meeting. It's now 3:45. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now, don't go anywhere, remember? Who's not?